Hello, welcome to the 3 session, and it's wonderful to be here. Yes, we still have some participants joining, so first of all, I would like to say congratulations on caring about your own professional development and sparing a Saturday with this conference and learning and reflecting and sharing. From the title, you probably couldn't understand much about the session, I assume. Let me share my screen. And here we are. Okay. And let me start it. Okay. The title is a bit vague. The abstract is a bit vague. I know we've got a lot to talk about, by the way. And we've got only half an hour. Normally, I would start with a warmer, but with this time constraint, the only warmer I can afford is a warm welcome to you all. And I'll try and check the chat box as well. Okay, yes, from time to time to see. But at the end, I'm planning to spare, if I can, a few minutes so that you can ask your questions if you have any. Okay. So here we go again, warm welcomes, and let's talk about Once Upon a Future. Okay. Now, okay. In our lives as English teachers, we had a time that was before the pandemic. Then we faced the pandemic, and hopefully we're going to experience an after pandemic as well. So I'll just put this down. Okay. Now, before the pandemic, I'll just move this up. Okay. Really, it's off and on again. Can you hear me now? Zainabuja? Let me just check again. Okay, testing my microphone. It seems to be working. Okay, yes, good. Thank you very much. So before the pandemic, we believed computers and technology was somebody else's job and somebody else's interest and somebody else's concern. And we were doing our language teaching in our classrooms with the way we were educated, trained, or experienced. Okay. But then we faced an outbreak. Yes, the COVID-19 pandemic outbreak happened. And as teachers, we were all panicking. What we're going to do? How are we going to teach our students? What's going to happen? Everything, if you remember, was a chaos. March 2020. And we were all trying to figure out, find our ways. What are we going to do? What's going to happen? Where are we? But then we had to go into emergency teaching. Now, this is a special category of teaching, isn't it? It's not distance learning. It's not online learning, actually. It's not something else. It's emergency teaching. Why? Because it was not planned. It was, we were not ready for this. And we had to do something because kids could not go to school, students could not go to school, and we had to do something to carry on with their learning. And we had to learn about lots of things, different video conferencing platforms. Should we use Zoom? Should we use Meet? Which one is more effective? What are we going to do? Security problems arise. A lot of things happened when we wanted to do our synchronous teaching. And we also learned about how to shoot videos, video formats, etc., and documents for asynchronous learning because we provided some other things for our students as well. We had to learn about, sometimes we were provided with some training by our institute, but sometimes we had to figure out everything all by ourselves. And our students had to do that too. They learned how to use all of these just like we did. And we had the parents, especially for younger ages, and we had the admin, you know, the principals or the other heads of the school. So there were a lot of things going on at the same time. And we had to learn about materials. What is a PDF? What kind of sound files do we have, video files, etc. Plus, we were desperately looking for the materials. For example, we had our books, but we did not have their PDF versions. So we had to provide them as well so that we could carry on teaching with our video conferencing platforms. And we had to learn about different tools and apps and etc. You know all these by heart because you went through these. But then after a while, summer holiday passed and the new academic year began this year. And we were kind of more experienced in the situation and we could think more. So we were a bit more calmer than the previous year. And then when the pandemic was carrying on, this time, after we survived all the basics, we started to care about, you know, how are we going to take attendance? Which one is the easiest way? How are we going to provide homework for our students? How are we going to give feedback to written homework? On which platform are we going to share it? We learned quite a lot of things. We decided on how to communicate with our students, our parents, a school, etc. Because was it going to be over WhatsApp? Was it going to be SMS? Was it going to be the LMS system we are using at school? How were we going to communicate? And now, just because we survived, we could look at the collaboration of our students. How are we going to do group work? How are we going to do pair work, etc.? And then we also looked at another element that was quite important, the motivation of the students, because students, after months, at first it was new, you know, they were working with their computers or laptops or tablets or etc. But after a while, they started losing their motivation. So what were we going to do about their motivation to keep this online or hybrid learning going on? And we also had different issues like classroom management. How are we going to carry on classroom management on online lessons? So we started to think about the pedagogy of the online learning in the emergency. So the first panic was over. Now we could think, we went down another level and we could start thinking of the pedagogy of what we're doing in classrooms. And also the social aspects, because it's a screen in front of them and students are at home, they can't get together, they can't collaborate, cooperate, they can't have this social contact, which is extremely important for language learning. And of course, things like balancing the skills came up. What do I mean? Let's say after a month, some of us discovered, oh, I haven't done any writing in the classroom because we were busy with the platforms, trying to understand, teaching. But then we noticed that, okay, reading, we've got writing here. So what are we going to do about that? How am I going to develop my students' skills over this online teaching? And now we've got hybrid teaching. Sometimes we're at school, sometimes we're at home. We don't know where we are. Even we can get a message in the middle of the night saying that, okay, tomorrow we're going to school, or sorry, we're back at home again. So things are totally uncertain and we don't know what's going to happen the next day. But still, now that we started almost, it's more than a year now, it's a year and a month, I think. we learned a lot. Now we can concentrate all the other really useful parts of our language teaching. Now, yes, we learned so much, we learned so hard, and we did it in a difficult way. So never underestimate a teacher who survived the pandemic. Yes, because we established flexibility, adjusting to anything that can come up. We developed communication skills because we talk to everybody, students, admin, parents, everybody. We developed our survival skills. If we did not know anything about technology, now we do. I had friends who could only send emails, but now they're computer wizards and they can do multitasking with their phones and computer and all the other equipment. The pandemic has taken a lot, but has included a lot as well. So where we are now, before talking about where we are actually, even before the pandemic, when we look at the research articles, we can see that teachers believed that technology in the classroom hindered interpersonal skills. Even then, I mean, before everything started, they thought that the technology we use, it like tablets or smartphones or the other things we use, actually hindered collaboration, listening, manners, emotional intelligence, and communication of the students. And that was before the pandemic. And some people also believe that it destroys reading and writing as well, because everything is more, we type, we don't write. For example, think of the first graders learning how to read and write online. Or you can think of, you do lots of writing, but it's difficult to give feedback to writing over online lessons. So it also destroys the ability of reading and writing, everybody said. Then came the pandemic and the screen time increased and everything went online. So what was going to happen now? Now, I would like to remind, most of you are probably familiar with this, but I would like to remind about CALL. CALL is using computer technologies that promote educational learning. So it's like, let me go into the, for example, CALL stands for Computer Aided Language Learning. And another similar version, CALI, is Important Assisted Language Instruction. And we've got CEL, Computer Enhanced Language Learning. All this, I mean, it's in literature, and we're going to talk about these because throughout history, since the 1960s, we've been using computers in language learning anyway, and a lot of research has been carried out on these. So this period, this historical period, this historical development of computer-aided language learning has three unique periods. First is the behaviorist CAL, the second one is communicative CAL, and integrative CAL. Now, each stage is of course linked to a certain level of technology and certain pedagogical theories. Now you'll see what I mean. In the behaviorist computer assisted language learning, it was popular around the 60s and 70s, and it was based on the drill and practice method. Yeah. And it was also, the computer was viewed as a mechanical tutor so that it could, help students drill the phrases over and over again, and it never became tired. And the first technology that was used was called Plato, actually, and it was a special hardware, and it was used for extensive drills, explicit grammar instruction, and translation tests. So in the 60s and 70s, when we were doing drilling, computers were also used to assist this behaviorist period. Then came the communicative call. Again, 70s and 80s, right after the behaviorist, and they stressed that call should focus more on using forms rather than the forms themselves. And grammar should be taught implicitly, and students should be encouraged to generate original utterances instead of manipulating prefabricated forms. So instead of drilling, instead of repeating set chunks of phrases, they should use grammar implicitly, and the focus should be communication. And again, this form of computer-based instruction corresponded to cognitive theories. Learning was a creative process. So now computers are helping with the theory that learning is more complicated than just a simple behavior or repeating structures like a parrot. And then came, and of course this, there was some popular software and reconstruction programs as well as simulations for that. Then came the integrative call era, where the opponents, the supporters of this period were against the idea that computers were used only when necessary, the ad hoc and disconnected fashion, and it could make more contribution. And teachers moved away from a cognitive view of communicative language teaching to a socio-cognitive view that emphasizes real language. Okay, so authentic context as well. So from drilling mechanic forms, we went on to a little bit of communication, and now we're at integrative part, where we focus on the social aspect and the meaningful language. And of course, this period also focuses on the skills as well, the listening, speaking, reading, and writing, and to integrate technology more fully into language teaching. So instead of using it as a tool, it is more integrated into the process of language teaching. Okay, so these were the 3 periods of computer-aided language learning. Now, knowing about this is useful. Why? Because there are many researchers on this. And when you look at, let's say, Google Scholar, you would see that people really researched points that are as detailed as using computers for input in language teaching, or how does computers affect motivation in language learning, or how do teachers see themselves as competent technology users? So there are many researchers on this, and if you want to further develop your knowledge and instinct about using technology, you can make use of this. So CALL is quite popular. There's also MAL, mobile assisted language learning. So CALL and MAL are about integrating technology into the language classroom. And we've got a very useful model, which is the SAR model. Sorry, I've written upside down. Yes, it's SEMER model. The SEMER model, with this model, technology becomes a factor of a teacher who is totally aware of what he or she is doing in the classroom with technology. So Before the pandemic, we were knowledgeable about how to do group work and pair work, right? We knew how to give instructions. We knew how to reduce teacher talking time, increase student talking time. We knew how to do reading skills like pre, post, while reading stages. We knew all about them. But now, as language teachers, this model can also help you by giving you a framework of how to integrate technology, technological items, apps, web tools, or mobile phones, tablets, and everything into your language classes. And it is there to help teachers reflect on how we are using technology today, okay? So at first, with the panic, we learned video conferencing platforms. We learned about some tools. But now we know better. We know more. We're at a stage where we can look and stop and look and say, okay, I'm doing this. But why am I doing it? Am I doing it well? Can I improve it? So SAMR gives us a framework when reflecting on our technology use in the classroom, because we have different reflection tools, don't we, as teachers? We've got journals, we observe our lessons, we video record our lessons for observation, we've got friends coming in, etc. And we've got lots of tools to improve our language teaching. And this can also provide at least a basic framework of how you are using technology in your classes. Now, SAMR stands for Substitution, Augmentation, Modification, and Redefinition. Now, this framework has two parts. There are 4 letters, and the first 2 parts are about enhancement, enhancing your language teaching. And the second part, modification and redefinition, are the transformation parts. Now, we don't have much time to go into detail of all these, but at least you can have an idea. Now, for substitution, you can think of it as you were preparing a worksheet by hand. Now you're preparing a worksheet using Word, Microsoft Word. So you're using technology just to replace what you were already doing. So that's a substitution level of your technology integration. Then we've got augmentation. Augmentation is you add a bit more functional improvement. For example, yes, you use Word, but you also have a spell check and a grammar check. So it adds some functional aspects to help you a bit more with your teaching. So it's enhancing your language teaching with your students. But in the second part, in the transformation part, we've got modification, and modification means the technology allows for significant task redesign. For example, you can create videos with your students, and they can create, let's say, a collaborative task together by using Google Sheets, for example. They can come together and use Google Sheets and work collaboratively. So you're modifying what you normally do, and you're using technology, and you're redesigning with an element that you cannot do. But in redefinition, the redefinition level is actually the utmost, not the top, but you know, technology can do anything, right? You can do anything, and the limit is your imagination, actually. So the redefinition level of integrating technology into your teaching is what you can do with technology that you could never even think of, imagine of. For example, we do e-tweening projects, don't we? What do the kids do? They get online with their friends in Europe and they have a conversation, they work together. Now, before technology, this was unthinkable, wasn't it? Connecting online, I mean, what were we going to do? The thing that we could only do was send a letter then, but now we can have a live conversation. So redefinition is actually adding things in your classroom that would normally not be possible at all in a normal language learning classroom. Yeah? Okay, I've got 5 more minutes left, all right. So the summer model actually gives us kind of a magnifying glass to look at technology. Why are we using it? When are we using it? How am I using it? Is it effective? What can I do more? Is it just something extra? Maybe it's not even necessary. So this gives us a framework to do that. So how are you using? So this is the question. So how are you using your technology in classes and what for? You know, even before the pandemic, as language teachers in the classroom, we had to think of the purpose of every activity we do, don't we? Why am I doing this peer work? Why am I doing this group activity? Why am I giving this task at this time? We need purpose. And it's the same for technology as well. Why am I doing this? Now, maybe at the beginning of the 1900s, I mean, 1910, 1920, teaching was about just grabbing a book and going into the classroom, but that's not the case. And for a very long time, it has not been the case, actually, because we just cannot grab a book and go and teach. If we want to cook a very delicious language teaching lesson that would make everybody happy, satisfied, grown, improved, developed, we need to look at the ingredients that we're using in that lesson, don't we? And now we have more things, many more things to consider. Of course, we always needed to plan, and we still need to plan. We need to think about the pedagogy, the communication, the skills, the cooperation, collaboration, social aspect of language teaching, the learning styles of our students, and the teaching style of the teacher. Why are we doing all these in the classroom? The timing, how much time am I allocating? Have I given them a time limit, etc.? So we think about classroom management, the motivation of the students, and the technology integration now, and assessment. So we have a lot to think, a lot to plan, and a lot to be aware of. And this pandemic is going to be over, hopefully. Got another chat. See, for example, this is a very good reflection. You say you use technology in every stage of teaching, but mostly for warm-ups or the evaluation part, games, etc. So you can think, oh, is this a substitution level or is it a augmentation level? So you can think of that anymore. Yeah, for example, Padlet is actually one of the last redesigning. For example, attention taking, yes, definitely. So being aware of why you're using technology is so important. Awareness is the key elements of a teacher. You need to be aware of what's going on in the class, what's going on with individual students, what's going on with the temperature as well of the classroom. Is it too hot, too cold? Are my students hungry? Or are they going through adolescence, or do they have problems with their parents or family, etc.? So many things. Definitely, your goal is to teach the language. It's actually help students acquire the language, let me put it that way. Because as teachers, we assist our learners, don't we? We are facilitators. We just make things easy for them to learn. So when setting the ground, when setting the environment, what you use is very important. So that's why the technology integration is not the goal, just like you said, Pınar Hocam, is the tool, is the means that takes you there. A very good comment. And hopefully this pandemic is going to end one day. We are tired. First of all, I would like to say what teachers are doing is very important, and I know and appreciate this because the students need you. The students need you, and you are there for them, learning many things. Why? For the sake of continuing with their learning, for the sake of your students, to help them, to make it possible for them to learn. So this is a fabulous thing, and please pat yourself and say, well done, because you have accomplished something amazing. And when this pandemic is over, we will again reflect back on what we were doing and what we did during the pandemic and what we are going to do now. Technology is there and it will never go away. It's a part of our life. And we saw that it can be very useful. And there are some parts we need to take care of and be careful, not just take care of, be careful about it. And some parts that we can, really use to help our students more. Well, yes, okay. So that's all I have to say. Sorry, it was not such an interactive session, I know. But if you have questions, comments, please, I'm here. I can spare a few minutes. I'm already 3 minutes over my time. So please, if you would like to say anything, add to what Ismail Hocam, Pınar Hocam, and Rabia Hocam said. Okay, so what I said in short was, you did a great job and we learned a lot. And now we know better. We are wiser. We survived the most difficult part, and we've got new frameworks like SAMR, and we've got researchers going on about computer-assisted language learning. So you can increase your knowledge, awareness more, and assist your students more in their language learning journey. Thank you very much. I hope you enjoyed it and hope to see you sometime, somewhere again. That's all from me. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Kezbaya Hocam. I really appreciate it. Thank you.